Hello, it's Skylar, and let's get started talking about next year's iPhone. Yes, we're already on to next year's iPhone. I know it's 2018, but we're going to talk about the 2019 iPhone. The iPhone 11 XI, who knows what it'll be called. For all we know, it could be the iPhone 10Z. At this point, they're just spinning a wheel and choosing a random number. But whatever. So, we're going to start talking about the iPhone 11, is what we'll call it, or the next year's iPhone. And this is a bit of a rant. I don't have a script up on to read from. I'm just going to talk about what I think. The first thing I want to talk about is the predicted Samsung Galaxy A8, S10, S10 Plus, all the next year's Galaxies that come out early in the year by Samsung. And this is the design that we're going to be seeing. It's this Infinity O design. It has a hole. We've seen a lot of different designs by Samsung, and this Infinity O display is one of the displays we're seeing. And there were some other ideas they showed at an event. This looks like the one that we'll be getting on their phones. Now, I think it's a bit of a weird design because the notch on an iPhone 10 does not block the display per se, unless you're watching stuff in full screen content, full screen 21:9 content. Most content, most apps, it doesn't block anything. It just adds extra room for extra information. This right here, though, this hole is blocking something. It's blocking part of the display. That's a bit weird. It's another thing harder than the notch the app developers have to deal with. And I don't know what I think about it, because the display also curves around the outside of it. I don't know, it's weird. It's weird. Now, we're probably not going to see that from Apple, but I am surely hoping for some innovation, because Apple did not innovate very much this year. So I'm hoping we can see something new. Now, I've pulled up a couple concepts here on the iPhone 4. This right here is a concept by iDrop News, and it shows a much smaller notch, and I would love a much smaller notch. That's one of the ideas that I'm looking at, is this much, much smaller notch that it gets less in the way, Even if we get as small as we're seeing on some other phones, like we're seeing on the OnePlus and some Moto phones. I would love that. That would be quite amazing if that's what we could have on the iPhone. Because, Face ID is interesting and all, but I personally am a Touch ID person. I would have rather them go on with in-screen Touch ID like on the OnePlus 6T. But that's their decision, and hopefully they can eventually get cameras under the display. In fact, I just read a news article that shows that they have filed a patent, which means that they have an idea. It's not necessarily going to work. It's not proven to work, but it is an idea that they can have down on paper. And it has tiny holes in the display that the cameras can see through, but it doesn't obstruct the view at all. So imagine this with a few cameras under the display that could get all the angles, put it together in software, and get yourself a nice shot for Face ID, some other things like that, under the display. That's interesting. I like the idea of that. Now, again, this right here is a concept by Apple iDesigner, I believe, on Instagram. This shows the iPhone XI, 11, whatever it'll be, in 2019, and it shows, you can't really see the notch, but it does show a notch there. It's a smaller notch, again, which is what I'm looking for. Smaller notch, hopefully a thinner phone, just a little bit of a better design is what I'm hoping for here. I'm hoping that maybe even a third camera. I'm not 100% sure why we need a third camera. I guess it's just so that you can get more 3D angles to get better AR, better capabilities like that. But more cameras is the thing to do now. We're adding more cameras on the front and the back of our phones. I guess that's just the way they're going. So, now I want to look at a couple more posts here on Venya Geskin's Instagram. This is a very recent one. This shows a new phone concept with an in-screen fingerprint touch sensor again. Something big coming that I'm hoping that we can see in the iPhone. And this is a leak of a Huawei phone, which has a camera hole. One of those Samsung O displays, because Samsung, I believe, produces a lot of different displays. I think it's them who make these. And so it looks like we've had a leak that shows this, and there are some pictures of it here. And this is a concept that he did with this hole. It looks really good. Now, again, that hole. I'm wondering if Apple could take that in a different way. Maybe put a hole in a very thin bezel at the top of the display. Or a hole that's like, you know, a hole like in the corner of the phone. Imagine if on this phone we had a hole just in the corner, you know, instead of like it is on there with it going around the display. Something innovative, something new, fancy to get the iPhone up there again like it has been in past years, but not this year. This year, they did the same thing as last year. They played it safe with a simple S model instead of innovating like I wish they would have. So that's some talk about new phones, next year's iPhones, and I tried to keep it centered on the iPhone, not iOS, because I'll probably have later videos on iOS and iPads and Apple Watch and other things for next year. This is a lot of just my opinions and my thoughts, but there were some leaks and stuff here. I'm Askauer. Thanks for watching. Bye.